Okay, hi everyone. My name's Joe. I'm one of the three FPL Good Guys, and welcome to the channel. Welcome back, or indeed welcome for the first time. We're a group of three of us. It's just me today. I'm going to do a nice video, hopefully that's really useful, because I know it's a contentious topic at the moment, on how to break the template. Now, the template is really quite strong at the moment. Now, the reason why this is that a really excellent team with a lot of effective players that are really good at their price points, it's easily affordable. So a lot of us have the exact same players, which I'll come on to, which players those are in just a moment. And so switching from these players who are performing well, they're the best people at their price points, deviating from this template seems a bit unnecessary. But hopefully through this video, I can sort of give some different ideas, maybe some options which are slightly better, or will perform better over the coming weeks. And hopefully this will enable you to identify those. Maybe I can share some opinions that you're not aware of. And yeah, hopefully we can rise up the ranks more than just these normal template people and have some exciting picks that will elevate us up the ranks. So these are some of the players which are in all of the expert teams, as it were. I've taken these stats from FPL Focal's the Experts series. So these are the percentage ownerships among the experts who FPL Focal has talked to. Now you'll see what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players. Have I counted that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's ridiculous. 9 players out of the starting 11 have more than 90% ownership among the experts. Which is silly. I mean, that's ridiculous. There's very little you can deviate with that. And then we've got Archer as well, who's we got Andreas as part of that 9 and Archer as well, who are more likely to be on our benches. But also outside of that, we've got Neco Williams, which is owned by almost half of the experts. The same for Diaz, Robertson, and Ramsdale, who are very highly owned. So we need to figure out how we can deviate from this. Which of these players can we get rid of and replace with other ones for better value and make our team as strong as possible? Because we're looking for points maximization. That's the aim of the game in FPL. We want the most points we can get. Realistically, effective ownership doesn't matter. If you're maximizing the amount of points you can get, you're going to rise up the ranks. So that's our aim, is to try and find these picks which perhaps aren't the ones that everyone is selecting. So the way we're going to be able to deviate from the template is to deviate from the template successfully. Firstly, we've got to find the weaknesses in the template. Now, I'll come on to what exactly I think that is in a moment. But try and find these picks which have been selected by a lot of people, but we can find better value than the more expensive ones of the lot. Then what we have to do is find the players to fill those slots. So we've got to identify opportunities. So perhaps players that are performing well, have strong underlying stats that we're going to want to bring into our teams, and who we think is going to score the most points over the coming weeks. But obviously, to get those players in, you've got to get rid of some players. So getting the transfer routes right will help us, get the players in that we want and get out the players that we don't want, to help us maximize the points. So that's sort of a 3-step plan that I've gone for to get us with a nice, exciting team. So these are the 2 players which are what I've identified as weaknesses. It seems a little bit strange to call Cancelo and Robertson weaknesses, because they've been such excellent players over the previous seasons, and they're scoring okay, but they're both 7 million defenders, and at that price point, we're expecting a lot of attacking prowess. Now, Cancelo has, he's delivered an assist. Robertson's delivered an assist as well. But it's not enough. Their underlyings are really quite poor, especially Cancelo. For 7 million, it's just not quite good enough. I mean, there's a debate whether you get rid of him before this Forest game, and Robertson the same against a weakened Newcastle team through injury. But there's better value out there. So by switching out these guys for people who are in between the sort of 4.5 to 5.5 range, who have attacking threat, clean sheet potential, I think that's a really good way to free up some funds to upgrade some of our other players, where we can then have some exciting differentials who can propel us up the rankings. Now, a way I'm looking at, identifying these opportunities, because we've got European football coming up, which is going to bring us some more rotation and some early substitutions now. And there's a lot of talk about how this might affect Haaland, but I mean, we're going to keep him in our teams because he's doing so well. But also this could affect someone like a Robertson, Tsimikas, who we've seen is coming off the bench and doing quite well. And Klopp obviously trusts Tsimikas. He started him in the past, so that might well come very soon. And as well, just generally we might see some more rotation. I mean, Pep's obviously known for it. Perisic is going to be rotated quite a lot because he's generally a fairly unfit guy, and Conte likes to rotate his wing backs. So I quite like to look at the teams that aren't in Europe. So I've listed a few that have the most exciting picks at the bottom there. Brighton especially have had a smashing start to the season. They've got some quality defensive and offensive picks. So this is where a lot of our differentials that we're going to look to bring in are going to come from teams like this. So here are 8 that I've highlighted. I've sort of bunged them all onto one slide, so apologies if it's a little bit overwhelming. But we'll start with Pascal Gross. Now, Pascal Gross, if you've not got him in your team, is an excellent player to bring in. He's the second highest for expected goal involvement across all midfielders. That's just behind Salah. And for 5.8, I mean, that's an absolute dream. He's much improved his output. I mean, he's always shown in previous seasons to have excellent assist potential. I think he was in the 98th percentile across all of Europe's top 5 leagues for chance creation over the last season. And now he's up in his goal threat as well. So Gross, he's looking excellent. He can score goals, he can get you assists. 5.8 million. Brighton have got quite good attacking fixtures as well. I mean, they've got Fulham this evening, and then they've got Leicester, I believe, afterwards. And then I think they've got someone like a Forest coming up in the coming weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Gross, lovely pick, big fan. You've really got to get him you don't have to get him, but he's a very good bring in if you don't have him already. So yeah, Gross, wonderful man, bring him in. Estupinan, you can replace Estupinan with Dunk or with Webster if you like. But I've highlighted Estupinan because since he's come in, I mean, it's obviously a very small sample size, but he's got the highest expected goal involvement per 90 of people who look like they're going to play regularly, if you see what I mean. So I think he's been beaten by Mbabu from Fulham, who's just not played very many minutes. And I can't remember someone else as well who's barely played any minutes. But Estupinan, in his game and a half that he's had so far, he's been excellent. He's looked quite creative. He's almost sort of filling in Cucurella's boots from last season. And Brighton's defence has been wonderful so far. They've only conceded 1 goal across 4 games. And their fixtures, they aren't the best defensively, but they are good. I mean, they've got Fulham away. Fulham like to score the odd goal. I expect Fulham to score against Brighton, in fairness. But then Brighton have got Leicester, who you can just see Brighton locking them out at home. And I think just generally they're an elite. They're looking like an elite defence these days. So I think backing their defence is a good way to nab some points. Obviously, I've picked Estupinan on screen, but we've got Dunk and Webster as well, who've shown in the past they've got wonderful attacking threat from set pieces. For example, Webster last week really annoyed me because I had Gross. Gross whipped in the set piece, and Webster somehow stuck it wide from about 7 yards out. So Webster's an option because Dunk's gone up to 4.6. So if you can only afford a 4.51, then Estupinan or Webster are your guys. So the Brighton defence is a nice place to look, and especially considering that our players to get rid of that I recommended were Robbo and Cancelo. These are nice places to go to. Next up, we've got a couple of Leeds midfielders. I would have thrown Harrison in here as well, but I suppose this is nice and symmetrical, 2 layers of 4. But we've got Rodrigo and Aaronson, and Harrison as well. Leeds have been wonderful in attack so far. They've been great to watch. Marsh's style of play there. So, I mean, Marsh actually said in the post-match press conference in the last game that they didn't really listen to him very well against Brighton, which might be, a decent reason why they didn't do so well in that game. But previously, it really looks like they're buying into it, pressing high, playing really direct, fast, vertical football, which is working really well for them. Now, Rodrigo, I think if you don't have him in your teams, he's almost essential over these next few games because they've got Everton at home this week. then they've got Brentford away the week after, and then Forest at home the week after that, which are just a trio of beautiful fixtures. And Rodrigo, from watching the games live and as well as the highlights, he's looking like a bit of a greedy guy, which you like in FPL if he's looking to take a lot of shots. And he's confident as well, because obviously, I mean, he's the second highest scoring player in all of the games so far. Not that he'll care about that particularly, but he's scoring a lot of goals and he's looking really good. So Rodrigo, a wonderful pick. And Aaronson and Harrison, I think the double up on Leeds midfield is actually really quite a good shout. Because the fixtures, like I mentioned, and also I think they might well go back to the days where they used to just batter the lower league teams. Like I remember them smashing West Brom 5-0. Harrison scoring a lovely goal in that game, for example. So yeah, Aaronson and Harrison, I think, are good shouts to do well over the next few weeks, and so that's why I've bunged them on this presentation. Next, we've got a couple of sort of budget strikers who quite a few people have got Toney and Mitrovic these days, but they're not sort of in the template draft of a lot of the experts, as it were. Toney's got a nice set of fixtures. He's got Palace away, and then I think Leeds at home, and then Southampton over the next three. Toney being Brentford's talisman, you'd expect him to return some nice things over those games. So if you can make your way to Toney, that'd be wonderful. How exactly we get there, obviously, I said I'd devise some transfer sort of routes. That'll come in just a second, and one of those does involve Toney. So I'll tell you how to make your way to Toney if you're sort of struggling at the moment. But yeah, Toney, wonderful pick. If Brentford score and do well in those games, which you'd expect them to do, at least in a couple of them, Toney is likely to be at the epicenter of that. So a nice pick if you can get him. And then Mitrovic, he's the second highest. He's got the second highest XG in all of the game, I think. Might just be for forwards, actually. Or it could be in all of the game. I mean, he's had a couple of penalties. He scored that goal against Arsenal as well. He battered Liverpool's defence. So I mean, yeah, that Arsenal Liverpool example, you could almost say, well, you wouldn't say he's fixture proof, but he's shown that he can score in those tougher fixtures, and that's what they have over the next few games. So that's why he might be slightly put off Mitrovic, because he hasn't got very desirable fixtures over the next few. I think he's got Brighton this week, and then I think he's got like Chelsea and Tottenham. Again, might be wrong. I've not got the fixtures in front of me. But Mitrovic is an attractive pick just because, again, he's Fulham's talisman. If Fulham do something, it's likely to come through Mitrovic. And when his fixtures turn in game week 8, I know he's got Forest in game week 8. He's firmly on my watch list for that time period. And yeah, Mitrovic, excellent player. Now, Gabriel is the sort of defender in and around 5 million that I've highlighted. Now, I want to talk about the Arsenal defence a little bit, actually, because Ramsdale is sort of the most template goalkeeper at the moment. There is a bit of variation in goalkeepers, so that's perhaps where you can, source some points by picking a different goalkeeper to Ramsdale. Now, Ramsdale is averaging, well, he's averaging 2 saves a game. So the only people that have got less saves than that are Alisson, Edison, and Lloris. Now, a lot of the draw to Ramsdale in the past was that he was hauling. He was, making saves. Arsenal were keeping clean sheets. He was getting 10 pointers and things before. This season, he's only got 6 pointers, and they've not clean sheeted. Now, the reason Gabriel is priced the same as Ramsdale. Sorry, he's got some wonderful attacking threat. He showed that by scoring in the last game, and generally in the past, he's been a monster in the air. He's excellent at set pieces, and as well, he's more likely to get bonus points than Ramsdale if Ramsdale's not making a great deal of saves. So I think Gabriel is a better way into the Arsenal defence than Ramsdale, and I think if you fancy picking a different goalkeeper, or maybe freeing up some funds from Robertson and Cancelo, Gabriel's a nice target. I think as well, you got Saliba for 0.5 less. He scored that wonderful left-footed curler in which game was it? I think the Bournemouth game, and he looks fairly nailed at Arsenal. Obviously, Tomiyasu came back the other day. So a potential risk there, but no, Saliba's looking fairly nailed. He's 0.5 cheaper than Gabriel, and he does have some goal threat, but I suppose there's just less evidence of him being a set piece threat. That goal was just a lovely left-footed strike, but you wouldn't back him to do that particularly frequently. And he did get an assist actually for Gabriel's goal before. But no, I think Gabriel he's got more. There's more precedent for Gabriel hauls, and I think he's great. There's other options around 5.0 as well. You've got your Cucurellas, you've got your Trippiers. I mean, they're the two big ones, to be fair. But Gabriel's the one that I've highlighted. But there's definitely good reasons to pick some of the other fellas around that range. And I've also highlighted Gundogan as well. I mean, I know both Gabriel and Gundogan are playing Champions League football, so it sort of highlights the potential rotation. But Gabriel's nailed; he's not going to get rotated. Gundogan isn't nailed, which is the risk that you get with Gundogan. But what with Haaland being sort of the focal point of Man City, a lot of balls are getting tossed into the centre, and that's where Gundogan likes to make his darting runs into the box. He'll be in and around there, scrapping around, getting goals, getting assists. And against this Forest team at home in the game, I don't know if it's this evening or tomorrow, Gundogan could haul really quite nicely. I can see that. I'd love a way to get to Gundogan. And I can show you that in just a moment. I have got a little plan to get to Gundogan. But yeah, Gundogan, very tasty option. Obviously got Villa after the Forest game as well. So he could be a cracking option for these next two games if you think he's going to start. Now he was rested in the last game. He came on towards the end and nabbed an assist, which shows even if he is benched, he can do nicely for you. But given that he was rested in the last game, you're back in to play this Forest game. And he's really quite exciting. I think he could do really quite well for you. So yeah, if you can make your way to Gundogan, that could be tasty. And as well, I've not mentioned here as well, because it's a bit more difficult to get to him with the template that a lot of people have, is Luis Diaz. A lot of people already have Diaz at experts. I think 40% it was. But obviously at, I think, the 8.2 he is now. He might be 8.1. I'm not sure. I think he's 8.2. It's a bit more of a challenge to get there. But if he can, he looks wonderful. Just a really highly skilled player. His XGI is only a third of what Mo Salah's is, so I would be cautious of whether it's sustainable or not. He's scored a blinder against Palace, for example. But he's a high quality player, so if you back him to keep overperforming, then that's a fair assessment, and he could be a really lovely pick. Now I've got two on this slide and then two on the next one as well. So there's a few transfer plans that we can do to try and deviate ourselves away from the template. Now all of these involve a removal of Cancelo or Robbo. That meaning Robertson, if anyone needs that clarifying. Though there are lots of other options if you don't want to get rid of those two, or you don't have either of those two or anything. There's so many different things we can do. I think to say that we feel trapped in the template, I think is a bit unfair, because there's a lot of exciting options, and there's arguments that these players are likely to score more or be better value for money than some of the players that you might already have, like a Cancelo or a Robbo. So without further ado, so we've got Cancelo or Robbo to Estupinan or Gabriel. It depends how much money you've got in the bank to make these moves. But for example, doing Robbo to Estupinan and then going from your Archer or your Stansfield or your Derevazoglu, whoever you've got down there on your bench, you should be able to afford to go all the way up to Ivan Toney, which is excellent given Toney's upcoming fixtures. I think there's a good argument that he'll outscore Robbo over those. Obviously, Robbo playing against Newcastle at home. Newcastle are a bit weak at the moment offensively. And then Robbo plays Everton, which is a Merseyside derby, but Everton are a bit rubbish. There's a lot of argument to be had there, but if you back Toney to outscore Robbo, there is a route you can do with two transfers. If you've got two free transfers, at least, I think this is a really viable move to do this week, especially because you'll have a Estupinan who you can rotate with someone on your pitch, or perhaps play ahead of a different option that you don't like so much this week. You'll then have a Estupinan and Toney ahead of Robbo and a 4.5 attacker who you'd never play. Getting rid of Cancelo, that's the issue this week, because they've got such a good fixture this week of Notts Forest. You'd back a clean sheet in that game, so I don't think this is the week to get rid of your Cancelos. You could very well do it next week, just like you do the Robbo transfer next week, and bring in your Toneys and your Estupinans. But yeah, that's its own sort of separate argument. Maybe you could do Cancelo down to Walker, for example, to fund your way up to Toney. But yeah, lots of different options you can do to get your way up to Toney. Mitrovic, I'll just mention briefly as well. Like I mentioned, his fixtures were slightly weaker. But if you fancy him, or you want some money in the bank left over, or you want to do a different move, you want to bring in maybe a 5.5 defender like a a Perisic or someone else that tickles you, maybe you can make your way to Mitrovic as well. Now, a route you can do to make your way to Ilkay Gundogan, which is exciting for these next couple of games, especially if you think he's going to play roughly 100, get close to 180 minutes across these two fixtures as possible, is you can make your way down from Cancelo or Robbo to a 3.9 defender or maybe a 4 defender. It depends how much money you've got in your bank. And then you can lift yourself up from a 4.5 midfielder to Gundogan. If you've got even more money in your bank, you could even hop your way up to Luis Diaz. Pardon me. This is really I mean, you'd expect Gundogan. I say you'd expect. There's a good argument that Gundogan could haul over one or both of these two games. Do you expect Cancelo or Robbo to do that, given their attacking threat? Perhaps not. So Gundogan's quite an explosive, exciting pick. If you've got 2 transfers to spare, this could be quite a fun one to go for. It's up to you, I suppose. But I'm a big fan of Gundogan over these next 2 games. I think this Forest game, I don't know, I can just sort of see in my head him getting 16 points or something in this game. Don't quote me on that. But it's promising. Another one we could do, this one provides you a little bit more money in the bank, would be going down from Cancelo or Robbo to Estupinan or Gabriel, or maybe someone at 6 million. If you want to do Cancelo to Diaz, and you had a bit of money in your bank, you can go up from the 4.5 mid, maybe a Pereira, or someone like, that's who the 4.5 mid might be, is Pereira, because Pereira is quite a strong option at 4.5. But if you wanted someone a bit more explosive that you were happy to play more frequently, you could pick your Aaronsons, your Rodrigos, or your Pascal Gross, if you don't have any of those guys already. Like I mentioned, the Leeds midfield has such superb fixtures over these next few that I just think it could be a really good play to double up on those, whether it's Aaronson or Harrison. Definitely Rodrigo if you've not got him already. And then if you've not got Pascal Gross, I mean, he's got really, really good underlines. Like I said, only second to Salah, better than Rodrigo even. And his fixtures are quite strong offensively. So, this is a good move. If you've not got either of Rodrigo or Gross especially, definitely try and bring one of those guys in this week. And do it by downgrading Cancelo or probably Robbo. More likely Robbo than Cancelo, but if you just don't fancy Cancelo, then fair play. And then finally, if you've got maybe an underperforming midfield asset like a Neto or maybe a Bailey, I guess this is just an option that isn't a 4.5 mid like Pereira. You're more likely to have the cash in the bank to make your way up to a Luis Diaz. If you do Cancelo or Robbo to an Estupinan. But even still, after having covered those, there's so many more options. We're not limited. It surprised me, how much, doing research for this, how much choice there actually is. Like I mentioned, we can get rid of Ramsdale, because Ramsdale is underperforming and he's quite heavy in the template. Can switch goalkeeper. Ramsdale has obviously got Villa in this week, but then he's got Man United away, which isn't such an attractive fixture anymore. Like I say, Ramsdale isn't making a great deal of saves these days, so there's more exciting goalkeeper picks out there. You could spend more money in goal, you could spend less money in goal. I think it's a good place to look. Maybe switching out to Gabriel, as I mentioned, in defence and getting rid of your Ramsdale in goal could be a good way of covering the Arsenal defence, getting more money out of the Arsenal defence because you'll get more bonus and potential attacking threat from Gabriel. And you'll have a different guy trying to clean sheet for you at the back as well and getting you some more saves. So that's a decent shout. I've sort of covered the double Leeds midfield, but I think that's just something which isn't being used by anybody at the moment. And it looks to me to be really attractive over these next few games. I'm teeter-tottering as to whether I pick it myself. Any of you that are familiar with my team or have been watching the podcast at all will know that I'm a big Rodrigo fan and that I'm teeter-tottering on that Aaronson transfer. That's a big shout if you fancy going for it. And as well, a way that we can differentiate ourselves and really beat the template lads is by varying our captain picks. Now, whether that this week be the Haaland versus Salah, which looks to be quite close on all the polls of the different content creators. A lot of people are thinking Haaland, a lot of people are thinking Salah. I'm personally sort of teetering between Salah and Rodrigo. I really quite like Leeds against Everton in this game. But I mean, hey, that's me. I'm a bit of a rarity, I imagine, this week with Rodrigo captain. But yeah, that's a good way you can differentiate, even if your team is quite basic, quite simple. If you think that there's someone that's going to score the most, maybe you captain Gundogan this week. Maybe you captain Trent this week. Maybe you captain Gross this week, which wouldn't be the most ridiculous move. That's a fun way that you can separate yourself. So yeah, thanks ever so much for watching, everybody. Please check out some of our podcasts that we've done. You'll get to see someone else's ugly mug rather than just mine. We'll have BV and Dan as well. We're not too bad at the game. We're not the best. We're not the worst. But we think you'll have a good time by watching. Check us out on the Instagram, as you can see on screen there, at the FPL Good Guys. Like, subscribe, comment if you've got anything interesting to say, or not. Just comment something if you want to comment something. It's a free country. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I will see you all later.